When your country is run by someone like this, the features and traits of that person seep into the subconscious of an entire country. Joe Biden, our addled, atrophied former commander-in-chief, I'm told he had good days and bad days. That's what I was told, repeatedly. But I don't know if I ever saw a truly good day. And I mean that honestly. And the impact that Joe Biden had on our nation without even opening his mouth was catastrophic. When your leader has good days and bad days and can only function effectively between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., it affects the psyche of the entire country. When U.S. cargo planes were trying to take off from Kabul airport in August of 2021 in Afghanistan, and images like this were blasted into living rooms across the country, and an Afghani man was seen prancing in front of that cargo plane on the runway, that has an impact. That affects how you feel about your country, whether you know it or not. None of that was normal. But for 4 years, we were all told it was. We were all told the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a smashing success. It was not. But suddenly, everything has changed. Everything has shifted. According to a CBS poll, 67% of Americans are now optimistic about the next 4 years, meaning our national mood has shifted because we now have a strong leader in the White House. I mean that objectively, and we can all feel it. Donald Trump has owned a beach house in Palm Beach on the water. He's got his own beach since 1985. I've never once seen him sitting in a beach chair lounging like Joe Biden. And even when Donald Trump does go to the beach, we found one photo. When Donald Trump does go to the beach, he still projects strength, holding his ex-wife there. And that strength is now affecting everything. It's affecting how people feel because the country's got its mojo back. The country has got a president who isn't just effective between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Donald Trump is always effective, even when he's golfing. More on that in a moment. He's always working. And that's having an impact on the mood of the country after 4 years of being lied to right to our faces about Joe Biden.
Is it the view of the president's communications team that he is equally adept in all settings in terms of communications, or are there some that play to greater strengths, some where he probably isn't as strong, etc.?
I will tell you this, the president is the best communicator that we have in the White House.
This is a president that wakes up every morning and puts the American people first. That's what he does. As he always does, he's working around the clock, focusing on the issues that matter to the American people, everyday Americans, obviously.
And now we're being told on a daily basis that tariffs are a bad thing. Every day, tariffs are bad. I've heard more about tariffs in the last 2 weeks than I have in the last 42 years. And Donald Trump is wrong. We hear it every day by the same people that told us that inflation was transitory. The same people that lied to us about grocery prices and gas prices and mortgage rates are now claiming that tariffs are not only bad, but they're apparently horrible. That according to my guy Harry over at CNN.
Trump's tariffs on Canada, China, Mexico. Look at this. Just 38% support. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to figure out that 51% oppose is larger than the 38% support. Look, Trump has done some fairly popular things in his first few weeks in office. This is not one of them. No, no, no. Horrible, 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 to quote Charles Barkley. The American folks are opposed to these tariffs.
No, they're not. They just don't know a lot about tariffs. This headline from Brown University, a global economist's take on tariffs, American consumers will get hurt. Did you hear that? According to a global economist, tariffs are not good, according to a global economist. What is a global economist? And what's the difference between a global economist and just a regular economist? And I deal with business people every day in this role, and I've never met a domestic-only economist. But headline after headline, all written by those same types of global economist people, all saying the same thing, that Trump tariffs are bad. And it was the same thing on TV, one global economist after another trying to convince themselves that Trump's tariffs are terribly bad.
Highlight another problem with broad-based tariffs, and that is other countries are going to respond. That costs American jobs. It hurts manufacturers who export a lot of product. It hurts farmers and agricultural industries because they export a lot of product. So it does a lot of damage.
The across-the-board nature of these tariffs are really very, very damaging.
He actually today said that in this battle of tariffs, et cetera, that Americans were going to have to feel some pain. You have to go back in your district and tell them that our trade policy means you're going to have to feel some pain in your pocketbooks that already hurt. That doesn't sound like a winning strategy.
You know, I just decided this now. A cocktail party with a room full of global economists might be the worst party on the planet. I mean, listen to these people. And they are all wrong. These people are always wrong. Donald Trump, not only the president now, but he's also the greatest negotiator we've ever had in the White House. He wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. This man knows how to negotiate. He's not sitting in some think tank at Brown University writing about how theoretically tariffs could be bad for generations. The swamp has been against tariffs without ever really knowing anything about tariffs. And for proof of that, I offer you one man who is a Republican, in name only, who needs to retire.
What about tariffs against our allies?
It will drive the cost of everything up. In other words, it'll be paid for by American consumers. I mean, why would you want to get in a fight with your allies over this?
Who cares about our allies, Mitch? Okay? Who cares? You are wrong. No one seems comfortable talking about this, but when you are the world's greatest superpower, guess what? It's okay to act like it. It's okay to throw your weight around from time to time. The Democrats do this, Mitch, by starting wars and proxy wars. Republicans do it by asserting U.S. economic power as leverage against weaker countries that are trying to rip us off. Those days are over. Remember when the Colombian president told Donald Trump 2 weeks ago that Colombia was not going to take back Colombian citizens living in the U.S. illegally? Donald Trump was on the golf course in Florida at the time, and between holes, he posted on Truth Social that the U.S. would immediately impose a 10% tariff on all Colombian goods. That trade war lasted about 2 hours, and Colombian illegals are now being flown back to Colombia, and Colombia is paying for it. And at the time, AOC, one of the brilliant minds on the left, tweeted about what a trade war would mean for coffee prices here in the United States. Can you imagine? What wasn't reported at that time was that the second it looked like the U.S. and Colombia were going to be in a protracted trade war, Brazil raised their hand and said, hey, we've got coffee, we've also got flowers, and we'll ship them to you in the U.S. for less than Colombia. And that is the power of tariffs. The American economy is so strong that the mere threat of tariffs and everyone suddenly capitulates, like Colombia. In 1844, Abraham Lincoln said, give us a protective tariff and we will have the greatest nation on earth, meaning sometimes it's appropriate to enforce your will on a foreign power to open up other opportunities with other countries like Brazil. In the end, that's what free markets are all about, and fair trade is the greatest expression of free market capitalism on the planet. But the trade has got to be fair. Global economists don't like Trump tariffs because they are more concerned with short-term gains. If they want to join that country club or that yacht club this summer or buy that boat, they need money now, meaning they want cheap coffee now instead of cheap coffee forever. And that short-term emotion is all over the Wall Street Journal, owned by Rupert Murdoch, who's probably making them write this stuff. But Jerry Baker says, pray for surrender in Trump's dumb trade war. Not one of Jerry's best. But what Jerry is failing to mention there is that every time Donald Trump threatens tariffs, not only does he get exactly what he wants, he's batting 1,000, but he's getting what's best for America. And with a 53% approval rating, the American people are behind Donald Trump. In the past 24 hours, Mexico is committed to rushing 10,000 troops to their side of the border to stop the flow of illegal drugs coming into America. Mexican authorities, and this is remarkable timing, just arrested one of the most violent cartel leaders in Mexico yesterday as they suddenly crack down on cartels. Venezuela has agreed to take back their illegal immigrants living in the U.S., and they are paying for their travel. And Colombia, as I said, is doing the exact same thing. In Canada, outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the lady man, just named the first ever Canadian fentanyl czar, and they launched a joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering in Canada. None of this happening 15 days ago. These are all good things for America. These are all things that were not happening 2 weeks ago before Donald Trump took office, and all of this will make America safer and stronger. So despite what those global economists are saying, I think it's pretty clear that Trump tariffs are not only a good thing for Americans, but they are already working.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.